Happy morning, dear friends. Here's yours, Dr. Ajinta. Welcome to day 52 and 53 session. Today we are just going to discuss a long information, that is a long details on inheritance. So Python inheritance. And we all know that actually the process of inheriting the properties of the base, that is the parent class, into derived, that is a child class, is called inheritance. So the inheritance enables us to define a class that takes all the functionality from a base class and allow us to add more. So here we are just going to see it by an example. See, inheritance is a powerful feature in object-oriented programming. The main purpose of inheritance is the reusability of code, because we can use the existing class to create a new class instead of creating it from scratch. So it refers to define a new class with little or no modification to an existing class. The new class is called derived class, which is we just say as child class, and the one from which it inherits is called the parent class, that is the base class. So see here, dear friends, in inheritance, the derived class acquires the access of all the data members, properties, and functions from the base class. Also, a derived class can also provide its specific implementation to the methods of that base class. And here I have just provided the syntax. Kindly have a look of it, dear friends. So here it is class, base class, and we have the body of the base class, whatever be the statements under the base class, functions or members and methods. And next comes the class, derived class. From the base class, we have to, from which base class you have to specify here in the parenthesis, and next a colon, and following it with the body of derived class, where you can have the statements under which the derived class to be happen. Okay, next let me just see the type of inheritance. See here, dear friends, in Python, based upon the number of child and parent class involved, there are 5 types of inheritance, and I have listed it following it by the numbers. See, single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and next hybrid inheritance. Okay, let me just see one by one in detail with example. So see here it is the first one, single inheritance. In single inheritance, a derived class inherits from a single base class. Here in one derived class and one base class. Okay, so one derived class and one base class, and here the derived class is derived from the base class, that is the features of base or whatever be, it just been derived from the derived class. And let me just see with an example. So see here, dear friends, we are having the base class vehicle and a method vehicle info with a self constructor, where we are just going to print only statement as inside vehicle class. When I'm just providing the derived class, see here, dear friends, we are going to derive one object, that is a class which is just a child from the parent, that is one among the vehicle, a car. So here a car is a vehicle, so from the base we are deriving the child car, and it has its own self method function, that is car info. And see here, when on creating an object onto that of that class car, we can have car dot vehicle info from the base class method and car dot car info from the derived class method. This is how you can specify. And see here, dear friends, here is the base class where you have derived the class car from. And let I just execute it. See here, so inside vehicle class, inside car class, where we are just accessing the info by using the car object. Okay, let me just see the next one, multiple inheritance. In multiple inheritance, one derived class can have multiple base class. That is, it can be derived from class 1 also, or it can be derived from class 2. So here the multi-derived class is derived from class 1 and class 2, which is the base class 1 and base class 2. Let me just see it with an example. See here, dear friends, we are having information related to an employee, and that employee separately we can just have the base information related to that person as the class base, and he is an employee to the company, and under the company also his or her information would be there. So when we just talk about this employee, he would be a person or he would be a employee of this company. And if we just say yeah person, yeah, he would be a father of a person, and he would be a father to a person. Okay, so in that manner, so we can just make that person would be the base of which class it is having the base information. So let me just have this as a multiple inheritance. So class 1, base class 1, we are just having the person, and base class 2 under the company. And according to that, we are having a method person info, and under the company it is a company info. And we are having parameterized functionality where name and age comes under the person info, and company name and its location under the company info. And when we just have making as a multiple inheritance, so both the base 1 and base 2, we are just going to take it as a base class, so both should be present with a separator comma. And see here, dear friends, if I just create an object of employee, here we are not going to make it for a class 1 or class, that is base class 1 or base class 2. Here we are just creating an object for the employee, and here EMP is the object of the employee, where it comes from emp dot person info. Yeah, it is the name of the person. And when coming to the company info, yeah, here it is the information related to the company and about that employee, and it is person to that of information. So here let I just execute. See here, inside the person class and inside the company class, and here I am inside the employee class. So with this, it is just having both the information from the base class 1 and base class 2, so which it just specify as the multiple inheritance. Okay, let me just move on to with a main example. See here, dear friends, here it is an class first, class second, and class third. And when we just make use of a base class 1, base class 2, and here the third, we are having the base 1 and base 2, okay, as derived, and we are just getting the third class. And when we just call the constructor, that is initiate the object of the class third, and we would be just getting the executed results as first, second, and third. Okay, let I just move on to the next one. See here, dear friends, here we call the same as like mammal is the class. Okay, that is the base class. And here we are having the object to be the class function. And see here, dear friends, when we just have one more class that is derived, and which is derived from the mammal class, and see, we call the under double underscore init underscore method of the mammal class from the dog class. And using the code here, see here, we are just using super function dot double underscore init instead of mammal. Here actually when we just make use of derivation, here we have to use mammal dot double underscore init. So since we do not need to specify the name of the base class when we call its member, we can easily change the base class name where if we need to. So that is the exact advantage when we just make use of the base classes, that is having more than one base class. So we can just switch over to which base class we need, so we just make use of it. So there it just comes the super function. And see here, dear friends, I just execute it. So here dog has four legs and dogs is a warm-blooded animal. It is just coming from both of the functionality. So here it is first called and then it just move on to the mammal, which is the super function method is used. And here I just want to show you one thing, changing base class to the other function. So see here we can just make this dog in any of the function, any of the base class function. Okay, so the super function, it is actually a built-in method, returns a proxy object, that is a substitute object that can call methods of the base class via delegation. So this is called indirection, which we just say ability to reference base object with super function, which is the built-in function. So since the indirection is computed at the runtime, we can use different base classes at different times if we need to, if we want to make a changes. So that is what here it is specified. Okay, let me just move on to the next example in detail. See here, we are having a animal class. Okay, and that animal class is base for the mammal class, and next non-winged mammal is derived from mammal. Again, non-marine mammal, it is also derived from mammal. And see here, dear friends, we have created a dog that is having multiple inheritance as non-marine mammal and non-winged mammal. So here we are having the every functionality of single inheritance and multi inheritance, where this is a continuations and we are having a super method built-in function. So if I just want to change this mammal to just directly, I can just make it animal. Yeah, it can be done. So here how the execution happens, just kindly have a look. So here I'm just creating a object D of dog class. And when I'm just being here in dog, so what it just goes, dog has four legs. That is the first one. And next, see here, dear friends, it just move on to non-marine mammal. So which is, yeah, it can't swim. And again it just goes for non-winged mammal. Yeah, here it also just specify it can't fly. And apart from this, both the things are just derived from the mammal. So it just say dog is a warm-blooded animal, and at last dog is an animal. Okay, let I just make a one more calling function as bat, where directly I'm just specifying the class of non-marine mammal. And see here, dear friends, as it is non-marine mammal, it directly move on to this. And what it just print? It print bat can't swim. And where it is derived from? Mammal. So it just move on to the mammal next itself. So here it just say is a warm-blooded animal, and next it is derived from the base animal. So here it is an animal. So let I just check with the execution output. Yeah, see here it is how has been specified. But here we are having all the things with a super function keyword. And why this is, actually the super function is most commonly used with init, that is double underscore init double underscore function in base class. So this is usually the only place where we need to do something in a child, then complete the initialization in the parent. So see here how the exact function syntax would be. So class, and here it is the child class, and when we are making derived from the parent, and that parent here how it has been just made as a self constructor, and here we are just making the self of that child, and with the super function method with underscore a double underscore init double underscore for that. Okay, let me just move on to the private members of parent class. See here, dear friends, we don't always want the instant variables of the parent class to be inherited by the child class. So that is, we can make some of the instant variable of the parent class private, which won't be available to the child class. So we can make an instant variable by adding double underscore before its name. That's it. So how we can just do it? See here, dear friends, we are having a class, that is C is there, and here we are just having the D class which is derived from the C. And one and only thing, when we just make use of this, note before there are two underscore. But when we just make use of that object one of direct, so it just produce an error. Why? Because here has D has no attributes of this D. This D doesn't have an attribute of that D, because here we are having specifying this is private to this exact function only. So there it is specified the value as like error, that this type D has no attribute at the small d. So here how you can just specify is by underscore, you can just specify the private instance. So if you just try to access it, yeah, you are not able to do it. That is what executed here. Okay, let we just move on to multi-inheritance. See here, dear friends, in multi-inheritance, we can also inherit from derived class. It can be of any depth in Python. All the features of the base class and the derived class are inherited into the new derived class. So for example, there are three classes, that is A, B and C, and A is the superclass, B is the child class of A, and C is the child class of B. In other words, we can say a chain of classes is called the multi-level inheritance. And here this derived one class is derived from the base class, and this derived two class is derived from derived one class. So this derived class acts as both base and derived. And see here, dear friends, let me just make it in a detail with an example. So see here, so vehicle is base class, and here car is a child class of vehicle. And when coming to the sports car, it is child of car, and it is not directly child of vehicle. Kindly have a note of it. So here when we just make use of the sports car object for a sports car, and here how it just moves on is, so here it just goes for the multi-level inheritance, so directly which is interrelated to that of the main base class. So it is not just directly make it into the inside sport car and inside car and inside vehicle. Actually, inside vehicle would be the first, and next it just gives the car info, and next is the sports car class. Okay, let me just see with one more example, dear friends. What we need is, see, we are here in class animal, we are here in class dog and class baby dog. And when we just make use of the function, that is the class, and we are in multi-level inheritance, and we are creating a object D of baby dog. And what is baby dog? Yeah, it is the class of dog. And what is dog? Yeah, it is derived from the animal. And what is animal? So from that it just specify the exact functionality. And even though, see here dear friends, here it just make use of the d dot eat. Yeah, it is just going to specify eating. And d dot bark, yeah, it is just going to call the method of bark under dog of animal, and it just specify barking, and at last it's weeping. So let I just execute. Yeah, here it is the output. Okay, next is just the hierarchical inheritance. Dear friends, in hierarchical inheritance, more than one child is derived from a single parent. In other words, we can say that is one base class and multiple derived class. Multiple derived class. So base class is here, and the number of multiple inheritance is, sorry, hierarchical is a multiple number of derived class, or derived class 1, derived class 2, and derived class 3. And let me just see it with an example. So class 1, which is the base class vehicle, from there we can inherit, that is derive a class car and a truck also. And see here dear friends, when we just create object 1 of car and object 2 of truck, and each and everything are separately having its own function, where car and truck won't get interacted as each and everything are having its own function methods. So when I just create an object of car, yeah, it just gives the info of, yeah, this is the vehicle and the car name is this one. And when I just create a object for truck, that is also, it just gives the name according to that. Yeah, it is the info. So this is the vehicle and the truck name is this, as like that. Here it is just specify as a Ford. Let I execute it and kindly have a note of it. So this is the vehicle, car name is BMW, and this is the vehicle, truck name is Ford. Okay, next one, dear friends, it is hybrid inheritance. When inheritance is consist of multiple types or a combination of different inheritance, is called hybrid inheritance. You can just have one base class. From that base class, you can just create two derived class. Okay, let that two derived class would be base for the third derived class, and even though it can add it from the base class or not. So there are so many combinations here how the exact function can be handled. And see here, let me just go for an example with that. See, class vehicle is the base class, and class car is derived from vehicle, and class truck also derived from the vehicle. But when I just specify sports car, it is just having the multiple inheritance as from car and the vehicle. Multiple inheritance from the car and the vehicle. And see here dear friends, you can also have as a sports car, it can be just making it a car and vehicle. You can also specify some other vehicles and specify vehicle and truck. And even though you can just combine all the three, and you can just make a base class of car, vehicle and truck, so which is common among all these three. So that is how you can just make the base and the derived class. And see here, we are just not going to much take a risk or a complex functionality, just a simple, we are just going to create a yes underscore car as the object of sports car, and which is having the base as car and vehicle. So what is the base and car and vehicle? So it can be having the inheritance between the with the inside vehicle class and inside sport class, and its own car, that is inside car class. So here it is all about the car and the vehicle of the sports car. So there it just being the output. So inside vehicle class, inside car class, and at last inside sports car class. Actually, to demonstrate the use of inheritance, let us take one more example. See, a polygon is a closed figure. Okay, so with three or more sides. So say we have a class called polygon, and here we are having small function, that is, see here, class polygon. It just has a constructor with a number of sides, and function methods as input size and display size. And next we are having a triangle as one among the class, and to its self, that is the constructor, we are having a function, and find area would be the next one. And let I just execute both the function. Okay, so we are just created the two build functions. Okay, sorry. So here we have just built the two function is created. Now, when I just create an object of the triangle as T, okay, so what it just do, it finds the area. So this class has the kindly have a look of the both the classes. So this class has data attributes to store the number of sides n, and the magnitude of each sides as a list called sides. So that is what here it is specified. Okay, and the input sides where methods take in the magnitude of each side, and this display side displays these sides length. And a triangle is a polygon of three sides, so we can create a class called triangle in which inheritance from this class polygon. So this makes all the attributes of the polygon class available in the triangle class. So we don't need to define them again, which we just say code reusability. So let me just have the triangle can be how it can be defined. So we are just going to call only the triangle class, and how it is derived from the base class as polygon. Okay, so see here, dear friends, let me just make use of this triangle and how classes triangle have the new function method. Let me just have the input sides. Yeah, let me have the sides as we just enter as, one second, let me just enter at 3, and next one for the 2 we just have the 5, and let me just have the 6 as the third. And when on displaying the sides, so see here it just shows side 1 is 3.0, side 2 is 5.0, and side 3 is 6.0. And when on just calling the find area is in the sense the area of the triangle, where we have just, I just scroll it above so that you can just see what is the triangle of that, that is area of that function. So here we are just having this triangle, and when on just calling that function, it would make the functionality how it is just making use of to find the area of the triangles which we have just specified the three sides. And here we are just provided, we can see that even though we didn't define the methods like here as input sides or display sides for class triangle separately, we were using that by inherited, that is derived from the base class. That is what here. So here let me just make use of the find area, and the area of the triangle is 7.48. And kindly have a note of it, dear friends, if an attribute is not found in the class itself, the search continues to the base class. So this repeats recursively. if the base class is itself derived from the other class. So kindly have a note of that. Okay, let me just see it one more thing in a detail. See here, dear friends, here we are having a parent class where we are just specifying that parent attribute as 100. Okay, we are just giving the constructor self thing as calling parent constructor and a method calling parent method and set attribute and get attribute where we are just making it for parent attribute. Okay, anyhow we have just provided the value for the parent attribute and we are just going to make use of this functions to say, get and set. And see here we are having a child function, okay, sorry, child class where it is derived from the parent, and here it is just going to have the constructor as calling child constructor once it is initiated, and then when we just make use of the calling child method, it just gives us this output and then go for the further process. What is the process? It just go for the initiation of calling parent method. Okay, so if we, for an example, see here dear friends, we have created an object C of child class. So here the instant of the child class has been created, and so it just calls the calling child constructor first, and next we are just going for child method, and next we are just making the parent method. And before to that we are just going to set the attribute 200, and we want to just get the output of that parent attribute by calling the value of the parent attribute. And see here we are just getting 200 dynamically when we just make use of the coding run. So it just specified as 200, not 100, so it is overwritten. Fine, let I just execute it dear friends, kindly have a look of it. So see here, calling child constructor, calling child method, and then parent method. There at last here it is the attribute of the parent. Fine, let me just see one more function, super function. So when a class inheritance all properties and behavior from the parent class is called inheritance. So in such a case, so the inherited classes is a subclass and the later class is the parent class. So this is we have already seen. So in child class, we can refer to parent class by using the super class, and which it just returns a temporary object of the parent class that allows us to call a parent class method inside the child class method. And kindly have a note of it. What are the benefits of using this super function is we are not just required to remember or specify the parent class name to access its method. We can use the super function in both single and multiple inheritance, and at last this super function supports call reusability as there is no need to write the entire function. So here it is the example of that superclass. Separately I have just specified here. So here the parent class company and the child class employee is there. So in employee class we call the parent class method by using the super function. It is a built-in function. So when we just make use of this method, and if we create an object of an employee and it is which is inherited, that is derived from the company, so we are just getting the information to be printed as from the base class 2. So here see here the name, it is from the base class which we have just derived to in the derived class. So let I just execute it. See here dear friends, this is how you can just make use of it. And last but not least of the day, subclass. And see here, dear friends, in Python, we can verify whether a particular class is a subclass of another class. So for this purpose, we can use the function subclass. This function returns true if the given class is the sub of the specified class. Otherwise, it returns false. And here it is the exact syntax of the exact function is a subclass, and the class here is to be checked, and this class info which is a class, a type, or a tuple of a class or a data type. And see here, dear friends, let me just make use of it. The company, employee, and the player, we have already specified a lot in the above. So whether this company is the base class, and see here, we are having the first function method as under the company, and next derived class of the base company, and it has its own method, and at last the player, where it is a separate class which is not anything to be derived, so it would be a base of its own. And see here, dear friends, when I just want to check is subclass of employee and company, yeah, company is a base of employee, so which we have just specified in this the parenthesis. And when we just make employee is a list, the exact employee has data with a list, no, it is not in such a way, so it just comes false. And when coming to the player and company, see, player is a separate base class, it doesn't have any derived or any thing, so here in anyhow it is not going to related with the class company, so these also would result false. And when just coming to the employee, see, this employee we are just going to have it is as a derived from a company. Okay, so that company, it just has a list of employees, so surely we will just have a list of employees there, it just specify whether it is true or false. Yeah, surely it is just going to have a true or false. And to the last, yeah, company is a base class, so it can be a base of its base or derived from its of the base. So here you can just specify the company, and to be true, yeah, it is one company or it can be one among the listed company, so here also it would be the true function. And see here, dear friends, we are just going to make use of this superclass and subclass, and just going to make more examples in the next session. And within that, if you have any doubts or anything to be clarified, kindly specify it in the comment box. Thank you, dears. Have a nice day.